All right. Here we go, folks. Got a busy night ahead of us tonight. So, hope everybody's drinking their Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee in true Bostonian fashion. Mmm. It's homemade iced coffee. Sup? Oh, let's get this thing muted. Let's get it muted. All right. Who's out there tonight? Kurt, what's up? Thor, what's up? Chaos Boy, Krusty Breads, Rob, Wiz, what's up? Magic Star, right on. Does it rain? I hope you guys are ready for a crazy night. Rob, what's up? Lucia, what is up? What is that? Danton, what's up? Love to camp, what's up? Michael, what's up? How are y'all doing out there tonight? Sup? What's up, Aphrodite? Right on. Right on. We've got a lot to go through. And this is, yeah. Yeah. Josh, what's up? What's up? What's up, Wiz? What's up, Janet? How are we all doing out there tonight? I'm going to put the old reading glasses on. Just going to get these things cleaned up. Ooh, nasty. What do they put on glasses these days that make them get so foggy so quickly? My wife says it's like some sort of coating or something they put on the plastic. I don't know. Puddles, what's up, man? You gonna go? You gonna be walking around? I want you to chill out. Hold on a sec, Vic. Boys, boys, what's going on? I thought you guys were sleeping. I think I woke them up. What's up, Jimbo? What's up, John? Hold on a second. Oh, yeah. There we go. Had to get the dogs out. I thought they were sleeping, but they heard my voice and they started waking up. They thought it was a fun time. Thought it was playtime with Daddy. Mm-mm. Frothy, good iced coffee. Wait, where did I go? Oh man, what is this? Here we go. Here we go, folks. Here we go. Animal diarrhea is the worst. What's that all about? Joseph, glad you could join us, my brother. Hope you're feeling well. Son. Thank you for being here. Uh, Michael, what's up? Statue of Transity, yes. Is Apollo. People should leave symbolism to the experts. In what possible reason do they have to call it Apollo? There's nothing associated with Apollo in the Statue of Liberty. What's up, Lyle? Yeah, who let the dogs out? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. You are welcome, Joseph. Glad you could be with us. Glad you could join us for sure. For sure. We got a lot to go through, so we're going to get a little bit early start because we've got a after party for the VVs. I hope all the VVs got their invitation. If not, just go to the Patreon page and link it from there. Okay. Alrighty, folks. Are we all settled? Let's see. Oh my goodness. Big crowd tonight. Big crowd tonight. Right on. Right on. Okay. I was out taking Mr. Puddles on a walk tonight, and really thick cloud cover, but there was weird, like I was looking towards the epicenter of the earthquake, which is west of here, and the whole sky just looked weird. It made me a little uncomfortable, to be honest with you. Yeah. That earthquake was a trip. That was crazy. That was just nuts. I've never experienced an earthquake that strong. I mean, it was strong. It was like, oh, it was only 4.8. It's like, well, it's different geology around here. I mean, the epicenter is about 20 miles due west from where I'm sitting right now, and it was shaking all the way up to Vermont. It's not like California. It's different geology. So it was, at first I thought a tree crashed through the house. It was crazy. Then I didn't know what was going on. Yeah, very weird earthquake, especially since we were talking about them, right? Especially since we were talking about them. We had the earthquake happen in Taiwan with our friend Wu talking about all that kind of thing. All right. Okay, folks, we're going to get this thing. Oh, shoot. All right. A couple more minutes. Got to wait. I have ADD. Much older and crisper geology on the East Coast. Yeah, I was watching a video on that. This geologist was talking about the fault line, which is, like I said, it's not too far from here, and he said it is very brittle, and it's like we're overdue for a major earthquake too, which is not what I wanted to hear. But what are you going to do? Oh, you, not Woo. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. My head is just spinning right now. I've been working all week on these, all these different. I'm sorry, you. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. In the land of earthquakes, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, man, we're on the West Coast. Yeah. Whatever. What are you gonna do?" Yeah. Now this. They're saying something's going to happen on the eclipse, and it's just like, whoa. Yeah, it depends on how deep the quake is and what the ground is made out of. Brittle. Yes, that is the word. Yes. All right, Jose. Glad you could be here, my friend. Glad you could be here. Rock on. Right on. Glad you could be here. Glad you could be joining us live. We got a lot to go through. A lot to go through. So 1 minute warning, folks. If you're not settled and your popcorn and soda or your iced coffee or whatever you got going on, we're getting the kitchen redone. So everything's just been like crazy, up in the air, just like all over the place. One more minute. Yes, Ottawa sounded like a freight train going through the house, I'm sure. And, what's up, Seth? Japan. There you go. I missed the context of that, but okay. Yeah, Japan gets crazy earthquakes. Okay, folks, here we go. You ready to rock? Everybody out there ready to roll with this crazy business? I'm going to be doing this is not a true crime podcast. We're going to be taking a little bit different tact for this particular storyline. We're going to be doing this synchromistic style. And don't duck out before the end, because it's going to be a little bit of surprise. No spoiler alerts. Okay, let's do this up. Smiley face. All right, the reason I'm doing this now is because of this storyline, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, the tragic death of Riley Strain, which we're all sort of watching in real time and watching just basically the entire law enforcement apparatus be complicit in this. So if you don't follow William Ramsey on Twitter, please do. And also there's another Twitter feed called Drowning Victims, which I recommend. This is those two feeds are really your go-tos for smiley face information. All right. So what we know: Tennessee medical examiner autopsy, no foul play suspected, death appears accidental, toxicology results pending. This kid was missing his pants and his stop They said he went to stop to take a pee in the river. We all saw this kid on CCTV. Seems to be that he was drugged, probably with GHB, which seems to be a through line with these horrible stories. Parents ordered a second autopsy. No water in the lungs. There are all these people. There's like a cottage industry of people trying to deny that there's anything amiss with these drowning deaths. You just really start to realize just how completely satanic the entire system is. No conclusive signs of drowning. Shoes, pants, wallet missing. Toxicology results pending. They said he only had one drink at that bar. And he's a big kid. Something really, really messed up is going on here. Something really messed. So we saw this Chief John Drake of the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department giving a press conference, and we saw this very strange person, man, woman, I'm not exactly sure, on the left, wearing this sports jersey. This person might have been identified since, I'm not exactly sure, but the thing that was very creepy about this during this press conference on Riley Strain was, oh my goodness, make sure the cameras see your phone, honey. Yes, your smiley face phone. While everybody's talking about the death of Riley Strain. Continues to appear accidental after preliminary autopsy, Nashville police say. Nobody believes that. I don't believe it. We're all sort of, this is almost like a snuff film that we were watching in slow motion. Really, really upsetting. And like I said, it kind of got me onto this topic. So, I mean, she holds up the smiley face phone. Everybody was like, oh my God, this is a smiley face. As soon as this kid went missing, everybody started talking about smiley face. And here's this strange person, man, woman, somewhere in between, I don't know, holding up the smiley face phone. What is going on here? What is going on here? All right? This is really disturbing. Very, very disturbing. And of course, we have the scale model of the Parthenon. It's in better condition than the one in Greece, right there in Nashville. Nashville is also, of course, Music City, all the country music bars, a big night spot for college kids. This whole story is just messed up. Everybody knows it's messed up, and everybody is just kind of watching it all unfold according to the script. And like I said, this is a story that I've paid intermittent attention to over the years, but this really got me going for particular reasons. Okay. I have no doubt that this kid was murdered. Again, this smiley face thing, I mean, what do you even say to this? I mean, it's just like, Just had to make sure those cameras saw it. Just had to make sure the camera saw the smiley face. Yep, there we go. Now, of course, you remember the story of Laken Riley in Athens, Georgia, the medical student who was murdered by a Venezuelan illegal. And then we have Riley Strain here. We also had, the drama over the past year with Riley Gaines, the college swimmer who's been protesting against men and women's sports. Now, look at the Riley coat of arms, the hand of glory, okay? I don't know what to make of that. That is really upsetting. But the fact, that we have these continuing dramas with these college kids with the name Riley, and then we have the Hand of Glory, it all just starts to feel extraordinarily ritualistic, as it should. Because this is the new normal, my friends. This is what we're looking at. This is what we're faced with. The elites have become so powerful and so arrogant that they're just going to continue to rub our faces in this stuff. They're going to continue to murder our children for these sick rituals. What do you even say anymore? Very, very upsetting. Very, very upsetting. Okay, so since 1997, very important year, very pivotal year in Secret Sun parlance, at least 45 young men have mysteriously disappeared after a night out only to be found dead in a nearby body of water. Some believe the shadowy smiley-faced killer is to blame. Between 1997 and 2017, another important year, authorities pulled the dead bodies of more than 40 young men out of rivers and lakes in more than 25 cities across 11 states. Most of them were college-age, popular, and athletic. Nearly all the men had last been seen leaving bars or parties while inebriated. Now, the story that the satanic media puts forth is that these kids were all taking leaks in rivers and fell in. Who does that? Particularly in these major cities, these lakes and rivers are not, they're usually fenced off or walled off. You can't just stroll down and take a pee. And why wouldn't you just take a pee in the bushes? The world is just getting so dark, and we're just really starting to understand the level of evil that we're faced with. And unfortunately, the evil is completely overtaken the news media. Completely. So this is an older story. A serial killers stalking college men. 2 retired NYPD cops claim they have evidence of a gang of serial killers who use a smiley face as their calling card. Now, this is the mistake, and this is what we're going to go into. This is not a gang. This is a cult that they're dealing with. I don't think that these older guys, these older cops, really understand just how sick and insane the world has become. And I think that calling this a gang is just... It's a recipe for failure, because you're not looking into what these killings are telling us. Now, let me just say out front that it could be that a lot of these are accidental drownings. I mean, I'm not denying that. The issue is when these kids go missing for a long period of time, they end up in these bodies of water that have been thoroughly searched. These kids just mysteriously appear. There's been evidence of ligature, evidence of torture, all these kind of things. This is not normal. There's something else going on. And I think that if you wanted to really solve these killings, you would concentrate on the anomalies, the lungs without water in them, the ligature marks, all these other things, any kind of wounds or sexual trauma. So this case here, Philadelphia, this kid named Thomas Booth, 24-year-old, and there was smiley face graffiti near where he was found, or where he was actually last seen. Smiley face replete with a crown, which is very, very interesting. Okay, crown is very interesting. White male. Most of these men up until fairly recently, have been predominantly white males. They seem to be breaking pattern. We're starting to see Asian, Indian, Black, and Hispanic people going missing, ending up in mysterious drownings. So they're clearly becoming more diverse in their targeting. Okay. But again, this is something that's been going on for quite some time now, 20 years at least. And that 1997 is very important, and we're going to get into why that is so important and why I think that could help break this case. Smiley face killers theory connects the drowning deaths of college-aged men over the past 20 years. It claims that the deaths were murders at the hands of an interstate network of killers, a cult. The theory contends that the serial killers are highly sophisticated and communicate with each other on the dark web. I believe that this is based in the military, but we can get into that. The alleged victims are almost all athletic white college students who were last seen leaving a bar in some degree of inebriation. The offered proof of conspiracy rests in the narrow scope of both victims and locale and the existence of smiley faces painted in the vicinities where the men disappeared. I actually don't think that the smiley face needs even to be addressed. I would look at the victimology and the methodology. I mean, the smiley face sort of adds this degree of friction, and we'll explore why, but I don't think it's necessarily a crucial part of these murders. The smiley face murder theory begins with a February 1997 disappearance of 21-year-old Fordham University student Patrick McNeil, who went missing after a night of drinking at a Manhattan bar. His body washed up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, almost 2 months later. Though the New York City medical examiner would determine drowning as the cause of death, something didn't sit right with the McNeil's family or NYPD Sergeant Kevin Gannon, who worked the case. They believed Patrick's body showed signs of torture and that it was stored on land before being dumped in the river shortly before its discovery. Okay, so that seems to be a through line. I mean, they'll search these bodies of water, particularly it's a lake or, an area of river in an urban area. And then these bodies just magically will appear, not showing signs of being in the water, the decomposition that you'll see. All right. So this is just some more recent victims. As you see, there's a black kid, a couple Asian kids, an Hispanic kid. Again, I think that who's ever behind this is expanding the victimology. Okay, they started off with predominantly white kids, and partly because where they were concentrated on, areas in the Midwest and so on, but they seem to be expanding their scope. What sets the smiley face killers apart from other serial murders is the theory that it's not a single killer. No, it's a cult. Gannon and Anthony Duarte, along with Professor Lee Gilbertson, believe that the smiley face killings are in fact being conducted by a large, coordinated group. Yes, a military cult. Gannon believes there may be more than 1,000 people involved, broken up into cells of 12 to 15 in different cities. This would explain how some of the victims identified by Gannon and Duarte went missing on the same day in different cities. Very important. Some of the victims identified by Gannon and Duarte went missing on the same day in different cities. He also theorizes that membership in this gang, i.e. cult, not a gang, they have to change their strategy here, might change over the years as others are recruited. Acting as a group would also confuse any investigation, as the police would naturally assume a single perpetrator and be thrown off the scent if many people were involved, especially if they had no connection to the victims. Gannon notes that the smiley face killers have become more active because law enforcement has failed to take them seriously, and so the group is feeling more confident in their ability to kill with impunity. Yeah, and they seem to be extraordinarily active this past year, as you would see if you follow, again, Drowning Victims and William Ramsey Investigates on Twitter. These are some earlier victims. Could this be a military cult? Evidence of highly organized and executed actions. Actions in different cities at the same time. little to no evidence, physical evidence left for investigators. Okay, who's ever behind this is covering their tracks. And again, let me just reiterate that all these drownings and so on do not necessarily have to be part of this phenomenon. Okay, a lot of these could be accidental. Again, you need to look more specifically at the modus operandi. Government and media aggressively attack anyone who puts forward smiley face theory. Let me just repeat that. The government, law enforcement, and the media aggressively attack anyone who puts forward the smiley face theory for any of these drownings. All right. This is a recent tweet by William Ramsey. An incredible global smiley face killer kill cycle is happening now. Stay safe. Soldier, 25, found dead in a river after a night out with friends, had been trapped under a boat with ropes around his torso and legs. Inquest found. Yeah, that's not an accidental drowning. Okay. And these are the kind of things that like I said, that you should look for. These evidences of unusual circumstances. Increasing volume of mysterious disappearances and drownings in recent months, many increasingly non-white, particularly in the South and Southwest. This kid here, family says Maple Grove man's lengthy disappearance, very unusual. His jacket was found on the edge of a pond. Okay, so they seem to be expanding their repertoire, as I said. And this is one of the sites of the killings with the smiley face here. Now just look at that face. I mean, it's there's almost like an arrogance to it. It doesn't seem like a normal bit of graffiti. You know, if somebody was doing graffiti, it seems that, you know, for the sake of graffiti, they would be a little more elaborate in their design here. Very, very curious. Okay. Now, Kevin Gannon and Dr. Gilbertson, Professor Gilbertson, wrote a book on smiley face called Case Studies in Drowning Forensics. Okay, and Professor Gilbertson had been a skeptic of Gannon's theory and had been convinced by the evidence. Okay, and William Ramsey, who we're going to have on the Mystery Hour at some point, wrote the book called The Smiley Face Killers, Investigating Suspicious Water Deaths in College-Age Men in the U.S. and the World. Predominantly in the U.S. and the U.K. Okay, and don't forget that there are a lot of American military personnel in the U.K. All right. Again, so just check out those two Twitter feeds for the information. And again, like I'm not doing true crime here. I'm looking this from a different angle. I don't want to get bogged down in the casework. Okay. Here's another smiley face near another crime. Okay. Now, Ides of March, which is a very important date that we'll see why. The Ides of March 2016, 3 bodies were discovered in the waters of the Charles River, Mystic River, and Mill Pond within hours of each other in unrelated incidents on Tuesday. This is from the Boston Globe. Body found in the Mystic River was identified by the Middlesex DA's office as a Malden man who was suspect in a murder. Interesting. Police identified the body pulled from the Charles as Zach Marr, a 22-year-old from Harvard who had been missing since February. So he had been missing for a month, and he shows up in these waters that had been thoroughly searched. As you see, this shot here is a police boat searching for Zach Marr. On Thursday, police identified a 28-year-old Danvers man who was thought to have accidentally drowned. Foul play is not suspected in any of these 3 cases, according to the respective authorities in Danvers, Boston, and Somerville. Okay, maybe not, but I think there's also tremendous incentive for law enforcement to play down, you know, any kind of serial killer or conspiracy angle because it would cause a panic. There you go. Again, strongly disagree, maybe not on every particular case, but the Ides of March, and I'm going to explain to you why this is an important day, for 3 bodies to show up on the same day on the Ides of March is very significant to me. And this is the Boston media. No seal killer loose in Boston, police say, as another man vanishes. There's a great number of deaths in Boston. Now, the Charles River, I mean, it's not easy to get to from these bars and stuff. Again, this whole idea that these kids are all going down to the river to pee, where they're drunk, where they wouldn't just pee in an alley or behind the bushes, it's absolutely absurd. And again, I mean, we're just in very evil times, and I don't know who is complicit in this. There could be a lot of people in the media and law enforcement complicit in this. I don't know. So this was the day after these bodies were found. This is from a comment section, I believe in the Globe or the Herald. How many men students have been found in the Charles River in the last 5 years? I'm not sure of the number, but this seems to be a bizarre coincidence. Has foul play been ruled out? It was brutal cold outside, and he, meaning Zach, was nowhere near the river based on video footage from early in the evening. It just makes me sick. I find it hard to believe and that people simply walk, trip, fall into the river and drown, particularly in the middle of the winter. Something doesn't seem right. No, there's something very, very dreadfully wrong going on. Again, I'm not saying it's all these particular cases, but I would look for signs of ritualism and cult activity as commonalities. Okay, not just the smiley face. So here's Bustle, which is a horrible, evil website, magazine. They were the ones who were pushing this whole women becoming Satanists, and even though all the women that they featured in the article, none of which were actually born women, this is just such a crazy time we're in. Why the FBI has debunked the smiley face killer's theory. I don't care what the FBI says about anything. I think the FBI is a joke and is just completely compromised and just basically exists to punish the enemies of the Democratic Party or anybody who is against incessant war. So, I mean, the FBI debunking this theory just means less than nothing. It means the opposite of nothing, personally. The water wants you. The water wants you. So there were a number of these cases in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is on the Mississippi. So we have Lake Onalaska, and which feeds the Mississippi River. This is actually the source of the Mississippi River. Okay. So La Crosse, Wisconsin was a hub for a lot of these cases. Okay. Now, what is the significance of that? Well, La Crosse, Wisconsin is about an hour away from Fort McCoy, which is a major hub for military training. Okay. So the fact that a lot of these cases that got the attention of investigators emerge from La Crosse, this is why I start to think that we're dealing with military, a cult within the military. All right. And maybe this is why FBI, media, and so on are so reluctant to give any credence to the smiley face killer's theory, because it would get them into a lot of trouble with the military and so on. I mean, I don't know. But Fort McCoy, look at that logo there. Yes. The Scottish Rite Freemason logo that we see on the right. Yes. The twin-headed eagle. Okay. And the red and the blue of the Blue Lodge and the red of the Scottish Rite Lodge. Yes. Very interesting. Very interesting. Part of the United States Army Reserve Command. Okay. So this is why I'm saying this very well could be a military-related operation. And this is an early map of some of the Smiley Killer cases. We have La Crosse, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Boston. And you just see that, I mean, this is all within, the upper right-hand quadrant of the United States of America, starting, if you just cut the continent of the United States into quarters, it's all in this upper quarter here, which speaks to me of, again, a group in a contained area. And here is a more elaborate map here that takes in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, and New York and Philadelphia. So again, I mean, this is still a relatively contained geographical area where these cases are taking place. And I just see this, as a major red flag for these cases, okay? And here is a map where smiley faces were found near the sites of the disappearances or the discoveries of the corpses. St. Cloud, La Crosse, East Lansing, Canton, New York, Potsdam, New York, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Athens, Ohio, Chicago, and Ames, Iowa. So again, I mean, this to me is very telling. Very telling. All right. So William Ramsey pointing out the area where Riley Strain had been found on the Cumberland River, going through Nashville. Okay. Now, the thing that caught my eye visually here is that this closely aligns, I mean, the shape of the Cumberland closely aligns with what we were looking at the other night with Apophis, right? The Milky Way beneath the zodiac, or beneath the ecliptic, running through Norma, Crux, Vela, Pixis. I mean, all these different southern, but just look at that again. Very interesting commonalities here. So I guess the space where he was found here would be, I mean, roughly in, this is interesting, near Algol. So, we just look at the correspondence, in Perseus, near Cassiopeia and Andromeda. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So again, I mean, this geological or this geographical location, to me, speaks to an organized network within these states, all right? So let's talk about, why does this resonate so intensely with people? Why do the smiles resonate so intensely with people? Well, I mean, there are a lot of reasons for that, but let's go into the history of the smiley face and so on, because I think that this plays in to the resonance that these cases have. One of the most ubiquitous symbols on the face of the planet is the yellow smiley face icon. It has become nearly omnipresent by its adoption by the retailing giant Walmart and internet giants America Online and Yahoo for their instant messaging software. I wrote this several years ago. I mean, you can add in Facebook. The icon was originally conceived in 1963 by a Worcester, Massachusetts graphic artist named Harvey Ball. He was commissioned by the State Mutual Insurance Company to design a button for employees to wear to improve morale, cheer people up. Two merchandisers named the Spain Brothers came across the icon in 1969 and used it for their line of junk, t-shirt, posters, greeting cards, and such. From there, the icon entered into mass consciousness and became a symbol of the so-called me generation in the 1970s. And there's Harvey Ball. Boy, he looks happy. Boy, my morale has improved already. So there he is with his creation. He was paid $45 to create this image that has become universal. Maybe that's why he looks so depressed. I don't know. But yes, quite a creation. Quite a creation. Looks like Harry Dean Stanton a little, doesn't he? Doesn't he? All right. Yes, so what is this? The State Mutual Insurance Company became the Hanover Insurance Group. Look at that logo. Oh my goodness. So these are the people who brought the smiley face into the world. Oh, the triangle and the eagle, or perhaps the peregrine falcon. Yes, what an interesting image there. The circle, triangle, and the raptor. My goodness. Yes. These are the people who brought the smiley face into the world, and there's a closer look. Yeah. I'm sure all you symbol watchers out there might find that to be a particularly interesting logo. This is just everything we've seen. I mean, everything, once you start peeling back the onion, you're going to find all this kind of symbolism, aren't you? And here we go. This is where it became ubiquitous, right? Look at that bitchin' Ford Gran Torino there. That looks like the Starsky and Hutchmobile. And we see these two hipsters with their smiley face shirts, and then this smiley face shirt. I mean, I don't know if these are vintage, but this became ubiquitous. Ubiquitous symbol. Of course, Walmart. They use it in all their sale signs, right? In the store, you know, the price signs. So this is ubiquitous. Very, very common. Almost, it almost feels like it wasn't created in the 60s. It was created at the beginning of the dawn of time. Seems like we've had the symbol forever. And of course, America Online. Gosh, when I see this, my heart just melts. Oh my God, I miss those days. I miss seeing that sign on. Yeah, the 90s, baby. Bring back the 90s. Of course, they were the creators of the emoji. And then we see the smiley face in the upper left-hand corner. Not yellow, though. As far as I remember, the smiley faces that I used were yellow. Okay, so, morphed into all these different emoticons. And, of course, you see these on Facebook as well. So this has become ubiquitous symbolism, okay? It was also very big with the rave culture in the 90s, okay? And I think this is a very important clue. Since these killings started showing up in the late 90s, that's the same time that rave culture started becoming very big in the United States. Remember, there was the big push for techno in 97. You know, the Chemical Brothers and Prodigy and Future Sound of London, all these different techno groups. So the timing here is very, very interesting. And these are the kind of things that I don't think a lot of these investigators are taking into consideration. But we do, because we are synchronistically minded. Yeah, so the timing is very interesting, that these killings and these smiley faces are showing up just as the symbology is becoming ubiquitous through AOL, through Walmart, and through the rave scene. And I think the rave scene is very telling, and we'll get into why. Oh, so essentially the happy face is solar. It's a sun. It's a solar symbol. And we see the sun on the right, the sun card, and the that is just such a creepy image. I know those are different times, but the sunflowers and the The Naked Boy and God Almighty. Yes, but this is, this is a solar symbol. It's ubiquitous. This whole idea that the sun is sentient, right? That the sun is a being, is a thinking, sentient being. And there's Crowley's version that just gets even more disgusting. But you see this whole idea of the smiley sun face going back to at least the Middle Ages, okay? A lot of these images connected to alchemy. Most of these images here are connected to alchemy. The sunshiny face, which I think adapts itself very well to the occultism and ritualism that I think is at the core of the smiley face phenomenon. Okay? The Killing Clowns, the Blood Money Men. Please tell me there's somebody out there who recognizes that phrase there. Please let me know if you recognize that. The Killing Clowns, the Blood Money Men. So the next step, we saw the evolution of the smiley face, right? And its basic character as symbology for the sun, and also used in all these ubiquitous things that became very popular in the 90s, okay? So that I think is very telling, all right? And we're going to get into exactly why. There is that, yes, that is rather sinister looking, isn't it? This blood red smile. Taunting. I get a very taunting kind of arrogance from this symbolism. Blood red. Oh my goodness. So the evil clown. Yes, we're going to get into this when we get into the Joker archetype. We'll get into this in further depth. But the Man Who Laughs, which was the model for the Joker, Victor Hugo's The Man Who Laughs. Was that Fritz Lang? Might have been one of those German expressionist guys. So this is the model for the Joker, The Man Who Laughs. There's a serial killer in Boston called the Giggler, whose calling card was laughter. Isn't that interesting? The Giggler. Horrific serial killer from Boston whose calling card was laughter. This is very much a prototype for smiley face. Okay? Yes. He would call up the cops and brag about his killings and start giggling uncontrollably. Kenneth Francis Harrison, otherwise known as the Giggler, was an American serial killer who killed 4 people, I'm sure more than that, in Boston, Massachusetts from 1967 to 1969, for which he was sentenced to life imprisonment. He earned his nickname from calling the authorities after each killing, professing it was the killer speaking and giggling uncontrollably before hanging up. Okay, do you see this, my friends? This is the prototype. This is the model for smiley face. This guy killed women. I think he killed mostly prostitutes, but still, very similar. Of course, Killing Joke brought the malicious clown into the lexicon, and which Alan Moore, this is where he got his idea for the Killing Joke Batman graphic novel, from all the symbology that Killing Joke had used. And of course, Pennywise, Stephen King's It, which is a whole other story. Yes, Pennywise, the clown in the sewers. Yes, You'll Float Too. You'll Float Too. You could probably see this as being a partial inspiration for smiley face. I don't know. Of course, the FBI is completely useless, and probably all the police departments are useless. I mean, all they serve to do now is just protect the elites. That's pretty much clear to everyone. But if we did have a functioning law enforcement apparatus, they would be looking into these kind of things, into these precedents. The Giggler, Pennywise, You'll Float Too. You'll Float Too. Of course, the comedian, Alan Moore again. Yes, the bloody smiley face. And there's our man, yes, Negan from The Walking Dead, who's a whole other story that we talked about during one of our Elizabeth Fraser marathons. Yes, to his connection with Samantha Morton. Yeah, so there it is. You saw these. I mean, I remember seeing these buttons all over the place back in the 80s. And I think most of the people who wore them didn't even know what they meant, but they just thought it was a cool looking kind of image there. ICP, Insane Clown Posse. Another popularizer of the evil clown. And of course the Juggalos and their big Juggalo parties and Woodstock type of events. Yeah. It's really interesting. A lot of people in our little orbit here were former Juggalos, which I find very interesting. Austin Coppock was a former Juggalo, believe it or not. And yes, Heath Ledger, who swam to the siren before this film was released, The Dark Knight, took his look from Jazz Coleman at Killing Joke. If you watch the video for a song called Hosannas from the Basements of Hell, you see pretty much the entire model for Heath Ledger's Joker. Okay. So this is all, we're going to get into this in much greater detail when we do the Joker symbolism. American Smiley. Bret Easton Ellis, Less Than Zero, American Psycho, wrote a movie called The Smiley Face Killers. Apparently rather terrible. Rather terrible, but still very interesting. And I think, Bret Easton Ellis is gay, so I think he picked up on the subtext of what is really going on with Smiley Face Killers. And from what I've read, that he wrote this very much into the picture here that he helped create. There's some imagery there from the film. And our friend Crispin Glover, who looks like that guy from Breaking Bad. Does he not? Plays a cult leader who are after these rather strapping young men with swimmers' bodies. Yes. So there's, from what I've read, there's a very powerful homoerotic element here, and I think that Easton Ellis, because he's gay himself, really picks up on the subtext, I think, at work in Smiley Face. Okay. So I am going to eventually watch this movie, but I'm gratified that he kind of understands what's at work here, that this is a cult that targets attractive young men. Serial killers and the like most often target those they sexually desire. Okay, this is why so many serial killers will kill prostitutes and so on. Jeffrey Dahmer, killing young men, Cambodian, black, and so on. Men that he was attracted to. Very common with serial killers to attack those that they find sexually attractive. And if you've watched anything like Mindhunter or so on, they go into the psychology of that. All right. The water wants you. So this character here on the right is being stalked by this cult, and they start sending him messages and so on. This apparently is a very slow moving and arduous film to sit through, but I think I'm going to have to, because I think it's going to be very telling as to what we're really looking at with the smiley face phenomenon. All right. And there he is again. Apparently there's a lot of attractive young men in various states of not dressedness, wearing swim trunks and so on. But again, this is Bret Easton Ellis understands. I mean, he's obviously done some research into this phenomenon. He understands what's at work here, that this is a sexually motivated cult. that I also believe is embedded into the military. Right? Dakota James. Oh my God, this is a terrible story. Terrible story. But we have to go into it because it connects to what Mr. Ellis was referring to and probably was part of his inspiration for this. In many of the deaths that Gannon and Duarte linked to Smiley Face, a van has been spotted near where the victim was last seen alive, which means it's possible that one of the Smiley Face victims was targeted twice, which means the killers aren't easily scared. Military. That's military. A young man named Dakota James contacted his friend Shelley on December 15th, 2016. It was late, and James was very drunk after going out with his co-workers to a bar. He was confused and upset. When she tracked him down, she saw a visibly confused James walking towards an SUV that was sitting facing the wrong way in the street. Shelley intervened and got James home safely. 5 weeks later, James disappeared. Once again, he had gone out to drink with friends. 40 days after he disappeared, his body was found floating on the Ohio River. According to Gannon Duarte, Smiley Face graffiti was found a short distance away, and there's evidence that James was drugged and strangled prior to being drowned. Yeah, there's a number of cases like that. Evidence of strangulation or asphyxiation. The coroner disagreed, ruling his death an accident. Of course he did. Yeah, because he's just a clock puncher. Doesn't want to get involved. I mean, who would, right? To be honest with you, I was a bit hesitant to do this live stream. But if Gannon and Duarte are right, that means the killer or killers were thwarted and seen by a witness, but patiently continued to wait for their opportunity to murder Dakota James. This is from Facebook. The James family does not accept this, the accidental drowning. We will be requesting, this is his mother, all materials and are having a second opinion done in everything. This was not an accident. Dakota was murdered. Pittsburgh, you need to start opening your eyes. People are getting hurt on your watching and you are doing nothing about it. Media, we appreciate everything, but wished you had at least allowed us time to call the family. You must have been on the phone at the exact time we got called, or they told you first. I do think this is disrespectful. I mean, I guess this is somebody writing for the mother. This is a horrible story. Horrible story. One of the more compelling aspects of the Smiley Face killer theory is how similar most of the victims are, which supports the idea that the killer cult is targeting a specific type of person. The killers are all young men attending college. They generally get good grades and have professional aspirations. They're usually athletic and popular. They're usually white, less so increasingly now, and they have almost always been out drinking at bars with friends prior to their disappearance. Some of the more recent victims that investigators have linked to the Smiley Face killers have been openly gay. Okay, and it's got cut off here. Yeah, so a lot of these victims are gay. So the killers do have a type: athletic, popular, usually white, good looking, athletic, so on and so forth. Many are gay. So that is a big tell, and I think that's what Bret Easton Ellis was picking up on with his Smiley Face killer film. And I don't know why that got cut off. So let's talk about what I think this is about. What I think this is about. I think this is an Antonu cult. Now, you're like, who is Antonu and why does he have a cult? Well, believe it or not, Antonu has a cult. He's had a cult for almost 2,000 years now. And there are still quite a few cults of Antonu on the web, which is where I got this image here. Antonu, the gay god. And we see him here with garlands. Sort of, I guess he's Dionysius here. Okay. Very interesting story, Antonu. The contemporary neo-paganism movement constitutes a growing sector of modern Western religiosity. Unfortunately, while most scholarly attention has focused on religions like Wicca and goddess spirituality, this has come at the expense of studies of their smaller counterparts. I want to get John Michael Greer on the Mystery Hour. He talked about that most of these groups that we're familiar with, these pagan cults, really started out or continue to be sex clubs. Okay. Among these neglected faiths has been the contemporary cultus of Antinu. There you go. Among these neglected faiths has been the contemporary cultus of Antinu, a small yet growing number of practitioners who venerate the deified lover of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. Given the same-sex nature of the couple's relationship, Antinu has come to be seen by many practitioners as the gay god, and his cultus has primarily attracted gay men. This new religious movement reflects both continuity with earlier forms of queer paganism as well as novel developments. Okay, so yes, this is from an academic paper, by the way. Contemporary cultus of Antinu. Not in the past, today. So why does this connect to smiley face? These young men, often gay, being murdered, dumped in rivers, mostly rivers. Okay, well, let's get into it. This is Hadrian. Hadrian was a Roman emperor from 117 to 138. 21 years. Wow, that's a long time for that's a long time for a Roman emperor in the 2nd century. Hadrian was born in Italica, close to modern Seville in Spain. Remember we talked about March 15th, the Ides of March, Caesar, Emperor, Antinu. Okay, I don't think the fact that 3 bodies showed up in rivers on the Ides of March is a coincidence. I think this is a big tell that we're looking at an Antinu cult. Later historians counted Hadrian as one of Rome's so-called 5 good emperors and as a benevolent dictator. He has been described as enigmatic and contradictory, with a capacity for both great personal generosity and extreme cruelty, driven by insatiable curiosity, conceit, and ambition. So this guy was, again, 21 years in the 2nd century. Boy, that's like an eternity. This guy was a very powerful emperor, very accomplished, behind quite a number of major events in the history of the Roman Empire. And again, this is why I think the Ides of March is such a tell that we are dealing with an Antinu cult. Hadrian's Wall, separating Scotland and England. I'm sure you're familiar with this. There it is. Doesn't seem very impressive today, but probably was back in the old days, right? I guess it would just keep men on horseback from charging, I guess. I don't know. There's also the Antonine Wall, a little farther north, that runs right up to Elizabeth Fraser's backyard, of course. And we'll discuss why that is important. But that is Hadrian's Wall. So Antinu was Hadrian's young lover. Antinu drowned in the Nile after falling from Hadrian's pleasure boat. Many theories were floated, no pun intended, from accident to suicide to ritual murder, but the fact that Hadrian was beside himself with grief over his young lover's death is beyond dispute. Yes. Very much devastated. A lot of people said that Antinu sacrificed himself for the health of the empire, that he was ritually sacrificed. I mean, a lot of theories. Romans were inveterate gossips. Probably most likely was an accident, probably drinking involved, ironically, right? But this, I believe, is the origin myth of smiley face. Okay, this is the origin myth. And here we see a procession for Osiris, and I'm going to show you why that's important. But Osiris, adopted by many Romans as a god, particularly in the form of Serapis, which was created by Alexander. Right? Hadrian had his lover Antinu deified as Osiris Antinu at the ancient temple of Ramses, very near the place of his death. Hadrian dedicated a new temple city complex there, built in Greco-Roman style, and named it Antinopolis. Okay. The cult of Antinu became very popular in the Greek-speaking world, which is most of the Roman Empire, and also found support in the empire at large. In Hadrian's villa, statues of the tyrannicides linked, the death of the tyrants, linked his favorite to the classical tradition of Greek love. Greek love, yeah, I'm sure you know what that means. In the West, Antinu was identified with a Celtic sun god, Balanos. Celtic sun god. Remember? Now this, I think, is the real meaning of the smiley face. The sun god. Remember we talked about at length how the smiley face is a solar symbol. In the West, Antinu was identified with the Celtic sun god Balanos. That's, I believe, is the message of the smiley face. Okay? Hadrian was criticized for the intensity of his grief at Antinu's death. Nevertheless, his recreation of the deceased youth as a cult figure found little opposition. Though not a subject of the state-sponsored official Roman imperial cult, Antinu offered a common focus for the emperor and his subjects, emphasizing their sense of community. Temples were built for his worship in Bithynia, which he came from in modern-day Turkey, and Mantinella in Acadia. In Athens, festivals were celebrated in his honor and oracles delivered in his name. Ooh, oracles. Interesting. Sibyls. As an international cult figure, Antinu had enduring fame, far outlasting Hadrian's reign. Local coins with his effigy were still being struck during Caracalla's reign, of all places, and he was invoked in a poem to celebrate the ascension of Diocletian. Diocletian, all the way in the 300s. I was about to say 1300s, in the 300s, just before Constantine. So this was very popular. You have to remember that many Roman men kept what they called catamites, which were teenage boys as lovers. Not uncommon, not controversial, not looked down upon. It was just very common. So Hadrian's, the fact that Hadrian had this teenage boy as a lover was not unusual, and making him a god was, not controversial. This is just how Romans were. It was basically prison rules in Rome. It was innies and outies. There was no gay, straight, whatever. It was innies and outies. Do you give or do you receive? That was the drawing line. That was prison rules, okay? That's how it worked back in ancient Rome. Maybe today too. Yes, there's Antinu as Antinu Osiris. Now, a lot of these images of Antinu freak me out because I had a friend who was the guitarist in Jerry's Kids, and I should put some of his pictures up. He looked exactly like Antinu. And I have a friend who's big into Antinu, a gay friend who's big into the whole Antinu thing, and he was like, "Oh my God, he looks exactly like Antinu." I should show you a picture. I actually should have put him in here, but I didn't. Anyhow, well, that's neither here nor there. Now, this is where the Osiris thing connects. Now, there's Set again, when we talked about Set the other night in connection to Apophis and the river. Yes, see, it's all coming together, my friends. I think this is all coming together for a reason. As king of the ancient Egyptians, Osiris angered his brother Set, who resented Osiris' success and conspired to kill his brother after Set's wife Nephthys pretended to be Isis and seduced Osiris. The god Anubis was the result of their union. Nephthys was believed to have been barren before she became pregnant with Osiris' offspring. This part of the myth was later linked to the Egyptian desert flowers, which didn't bloom for years until a large flood, Osiris, helped the barren land Nephthys become fertile and provided them with life. Not Anubis, but whatever. He's the god of death. Set soon put a plan into motion to get his revenge. He either drowned or killed Osiris. The story is often said to include a beautiful chest tailor-made to Osiris' side, a sarcophagus. Set invited his brother to a banquet with 72 guests. During the feast, he offered the remarkable chest to anyone who could fit inside it. Only Osiris fit inside because it was built for him. The moment Osiris laid down in the chest, Set nailed the lid closed. Then he sealed the chest with molten lead and threw it into the Nile. The chest was carried out to sea and then came to rest in a tamarisk tree growing in Phoenicia. Byblos, the Bible, the book. The tree grew around the god in the coffin and remained there until he died. The local king later decided he liked the same tree and with no knowledge of Osiris's body inside it, had it turned into a column in his place. Yes, very similar to Han Solo in the Carbonite in, what is it, Jabba the Hutt's, I was going to say Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt. We're going to get into this. I've got to do something on all the symbolism in films and so on, but we can talk about that. We have so much work to do, folks. I don't know. I'll be doing this till the day I die. So yes, the cult of Antanu in the ancient world and in the modern world, the Antanu gay oracle cards. So these two gentlemen here, Antoninus Subia and Ernestus Gill, created these cards based on Antanu. And there is, this is kind of Antanu as Mithras in some ways, right? The fire and the egg and so on. Maybe Phanes, right? Precedent elect. So we talked about the precedents, the giggler. But what about an evil clown who liked to kill young men? Well, here he is. Yes, there he is, John Wayne Gacy. Killer clown from outer space. There he is. I mean, who? Oh, clowns. Yeah. Well, again, we'll get into this when we do the Joker archetype, but this is just horrible. John Wayne Gacy was born into a blue-collar family. He exhibited a growing tendency towards sadism, which resulted in several encounters with the law as a teenager. In 1968, after his conviction for sexually assaulting a teenage boy, he was confined in the Iowa State Men's Reformatory. Remember, Iowa sort of plays into this as well as Chicago. After his release in 1970, he was again arrested for a sexual assault, but the charges were later dropped. Gacy then became a successful independent contractor and bought a house in suburban Chicago. He also got married to a woman. In 1978, after one of Gacy's victims, Robert Piest, was reported missing, police learned that Gacy was the last person known to have seen Mr. Piest. After obtaining a search warrant, police discovered the bodies of 29 boys, 29, remember 29, and young men in or near Gacy's house. 4 other bodies were found in the Des Plaines River. The house emitted a foul stench for years, but Gacy claimed that the smell was the result of moisture buildup, mold, and so on. Gacy's plea of innocent by reason of insanity was supported by the testimony of several psychologists, but was rejected by the jury. His conviction for 33 murders then covered up. Then that was the most homicides by one individual in U.S. legal history at that time. The most prolific serial killer at that time. Gacy was sentenced to death on March 13th, 1980. Yes, 2 days before the Ides, and was executed by lethal injection on May 10th, 1994. Yeah, very terrifying TV movie made with Brian Dennehy as Gacy. I don't know if you ever saw that. I remember we watched that. We were in the hospital. I'll have to check out the timeline. Might have been when my first son was born. I don't know. I don't remember. I remember sitting with my wife in a hospital room watching that picture. So I'll have to look that up. And there's Gacy being arrested. Look at those guys. Oh my God. Yeah, there you go. 70s, baby. And these are some of his victims, young men. All these kids could be, if they were a little older, could be smiley face victims, could they not? There you go. Oh, you knew this was coming. So 1997, 29, drownings in river. What does that all call to mind? What does that call to mind? Oh. Let me just reiterate. The smiley face murder story begins in 1997. That year, Fordham University student Patrick McNeil walked out of the Dapper Dog in New York City on the Upper East Side and disappeared. McNeil became extremely intoxicated, throwing up in the bar's bathroom, and went outside to wait for a ride home with a friend. very possibly drugged with GHB. When the friend failed to appear, he was last seen walking towards the subway station, followed by a van that had been double parked on the street outside. Very similar to Dakota James, is it not? Yes, and this has been reported. So this is an operation. This is an operation with military precision. This is most likely a cult of Antonu within the military. That is my 2 cents. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, okay? Oh, another drowning death in 1997 featured a similar victimology to Smiley Face, did it not? And look at that big old pyramid. Oh my goodness, just like the Nile, Memphis, Egypt, the pyramid. Oh my goodness, what is this, folks? Who is this? Who are we talking about, this drowning death? Just a couple of months after Mr. McNeil, what was his name? Patrick McNeil, a few months later, same year. Mr. Buckley, the shepherd boy. Yes, there he is, dying on the new Nile, directly beneath the gaze of an ominous pyramid, which I believe is the 6th largest pyramid in the world, which is insane. But there you go. Yes, Mr. Buckley, dying on the river. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, I had a conversation with William Ramsey a couple years ago, and we were talking about Smiley Face, and he brought up that he thought Jeff Buckley was a Smiley Face victim. And I didn't really consider that. I didn't even think of that. And he mentioned that he had looked into the story that we're going to get into behind Mr. Buckley's drowning. Okay. Now, could Mr. Buckley have been a victim of the Antonu cult, the Antonu drowning cult? Could that have been what actually brought about his demise? Maybe it wasn't an accident. From everything that we've been told, it was perfectly accidental. The Memphis police investigated at great length and determined that it was an accidental drowning. Unfortunately, the story just comes from a single source, and this was Mr. Ramsey's concern, that the story behind Mr. Buckley's death came from a single source, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But what was going on during Mr. Buckley's death episode? The carnival, the Memphis Carnival. What is the significance of the Memphis Carnival? Why does this matter? Well, because it is basically a carnival that is soaked in Egyptian symbology. Oh my goodness. Antonu Osiris, the grand crew of Ptah. There's a grand crew of Anubis and grand crew of Thoth and all these things. This is from their St. Patrick's Day parade. And there is their little pyramid. This is the Sphinx Grand Crew. Are you with me, folks? This happened while Mr. Buckley met his untimely end. There was this whole big Egyptian-themed, Masonic-originated festival going on in the city of Memphis, named after the city in Egypt. Was Mr. Buckley chosen to be Antonu, the sacrificial Antonu? Was he? It begs the question, does it not, my friends? This is from an earlier, look at that, there's Osiris and Isis, yes, being held in a gauntlet. Yeah, look at the, this is from the Memphis Carnival that was taking place on the weekend that Mr. Buckley swam to the siren. Did he swim to the siren, or was he chosen to be Antonu, the sacrificial Antonu? Were his killers researching his demise? It really starts to make one wonder. So there it is. Big Osiris-themed festival. is Osiris, another Osiris and another Isis. Is that the same? Maybe. Maybe. Wait. Yeah, probably is the same. Is the Osiris, the drowned god, right? The drowned god, Osiris. Oh my goodness. Isis. There she is. Oh my goodness. This was taking place the weekend that Jeff Buckley died. Huh. Now, okay, so this is the gentleman that Mr. Ramsey was concerned about. That was the only source. This gentleman on the right here is the only source of information about the death of Jeff Buckley. Now, let me just be clear from the onset that I have no reason to doubt this man was, or to believe this man was involved in anything untoward in any way, shape, or form. I'm just bringing this up to make, a conversation, let's just say. I am not casting any aspersions or making any accusations, but boy, that tattoo on the the right arm there is got me wondering. This is Keith Foti, 23-year-old hairdresser from New York. A hairdresser, aspiring musician. Oh my goodness. Was running errands in Memphis, had met Jeff Buckley in Memphis. Short and stocky with bright blue punky hair and a wide face. Young man's energy and enthusiasm. Yes, Keith Foti, the only source of information on the death of Mr. Buckley. And the whole account of Jeff Buckley going into the water to swim in his boots and his shirt and so on and so forth comes from this gentleman, this hairdresser. Hairdresser. That's interesting. Who had blue hair at the time. Interesting. And there is that tattoo that I'd really love to get a better look at because it looks like intertwined snakes, does it not? Yes. Again, let me just reiterate that, we're just making conversation here. I have no reason whatsoever to believe that this man was involved in anything untoward. But there you go. This is their only source of information for Jeff Buckley's death, this 23-year-old hairdresser from New York. There he is again. He loves these skull shirts. And gosh, I really want to get a better look at that tattoo. Yes. Started working in Soho doing hair at John Delaria. Performing acoustically at local bars, clubs, and street corners. Yes, New Jersey native. Moved to LA, joined Giuseppe Franco Salon in Beverly Hills, where a friendship with guitarist Stevie D of Buckcherry led to Keith styling the entire band for the Crazy Bitch video. Worked with Velvet Revolver, Billy Duffy, Chris Chaney of Jane's Addiction, and Donovan, of course. Rock and roll hair cutter, yes, hairdresser. The only source of information about Jeff Buckley's death. What does that mean? I have no clue. I'm just telling you the information here. Now, here's an interesting thing. I had watched this movie. It's an absolutely terrible movie, but it had, let's just say, Frasier-istic elements to it that I wanted to investigate. This fashion photographer who can foresee death. There's a John Delaria connection here. John Delaria returned to fashion this past season. This is from 20 years ago, so it's also why he hired the public relations team. He styled the hair for Douglas Hannant's Fall 2002 collection, which was inspired by the 1978 film The Eyes of Laura Mars, starring Faye Dunaway. Movie star had been a client of Delaria's for years. Very interesting. Very interesting. My goodness. What does this all mean? Terrible movie. Really god-awful movie. But there you go. Keith Foti worked for John Delaria. Had his own salon in Beverly Hills, right off Rodeo Drive there. That's interesting. 2 blocks away from Rodeo Drive. Look at that pyramid there. There he is with a skull again, cutting somebody's hair. I don't know who that is. Anybody recognize that guy? There's those two intertwined, whatever they are. So again, this gentleman, hairdresser, is our only source of information about Jeff Buckley's death. Make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. I'm just telling you the information here. I have no reason to suspect Mr. Foti of anything untoward, but Mr. Ramsey was concerned that the only source of information about Jeff Buckley's drowning death on the river, on the Wolf River, right beneath the big old giant pyramid in a very Antinu type of death, comes from this gentleman, this hairdresser here. Make of that what you will. Now, this is from the Jeff Buckley documentary that also features Elizabeth. This is his drummer here. The band had come to Memphis to meet up with Jeff. Jeff had just finished the demos for his next album, was very excited, was very happy, was very eager to get working with his band on the new album. They had flown into Memphis on the 29th of May. They show up. Let me just, this is a quote from, I forget this guy's name, but this is the drummer. This is Jeff Buckley's drummer. I think it's like Ty or something. Anyway, he said, "Who is this guy? And where is our friend? Who is this guy? Who is this hairdresser who is the only source of information about the death of Jeff Buckley? And where is our friend?" Standing beneath the big old pyramid there on the river, just like Antinu back in ancient times. Who is this guy? So basically, the band didn't know who this guy was. Didn't know why he was driving around with Jeff Buckley on the day he drowned. Again, no reason to believe anything untoward about this. I'm just telling you the information. Just telling you the information. Back to the Memphis Carnival taking place at that very same time. This is from the Osiris Crew website. A veritable drama was enacted. The ceremonies were mysterious and symbolic, but the most common feature was the procession of Queen Isis in her carriage far beyond the districts of her temple on occasions to other towns. These occasions were passed amid great rejoicing, music, dancing, and feasting, which formed important parts of the festival rites. The feast was held within lofty walls, with an entrance between immense pylons inscribed with hieroglyphs. Those called to join celebrated the regeneration of the land, the renewal of friendships, and the hopes for a productive and joyful year. Very similar to what Antinu had become, the dying and rising god, did he not? The drowning and rising god. Yes. There we go. And there you have it. So, my belief is that if there is, in fact, a smiley face killer cult, that it is a cult dedicated to the god Antinu, and is sacrificing symbolic Antinu to the rivers for this dying and rising to become reborn as spirit gods. Yes, and that the smiley face is the solar symbol, the solar regeneration. Osiris as the sun beneath the underworld. Yes, traveling through the underworld. There you have it, folks. There you have it. That is my take on smiley face, that if this cult does exist, and there is good reason to imagine that they do, that it is an Antinu cult, probably placed within the military, okay, that are offering up sacrifices to their god, okay? And that the solar symbolism ties in with the solar symbolism attacked to Belanos and other gods identified in the ancient world with Antinu, because he was identified with a number of different ancient gods. Yes, and as we saw, this cult is very much still in existence. Okay, and I'm not saying that they're involved in anything nefarious or wicked or malignant at all. It could be that this is sort of like a spin off or a just break off cult. I mean, whatever. This is the problem with paganism. It's very confusing. Anything can be anything. Anybody can do whatever they want, and there you go. So if somebody wants to offer up young Antinu to their god, their dying, rising god, why not? Anything goes. Anything goes. But please remember that despite the propaganda we hear from neo-pagans, this is basically a phenomenon of blood sacrifice. That paganism in the ancient world was a phenomenon of blood sacrifice. And nobody thought twice about it. And we see the vestiges of this in Yoruba traditions, Santeria and Voodoo, and so on. So I hope I've offered you enough proof, or not proof, I mean, this isn't necessarily proof of anything, but I hope I've offered you enough evidence to maybe, if there are any smiley face investigators out there, maybe this can give you a bit more to go on. I'm going to have to include Mr. Ramsey in this conversation and send this video to him. I'd like to get his take on it. I did tweet about Antinu and Smiley Face recently in light of the Riley Strain murder. But the fact that, young, attractive men, often gay, often athletic, popular, good students, Antinu types, okay? It just, to me, it makes perfect sense. And that the Smiley Face isn't even necessary to break this case. I would look for more identifying characteristics of Antinu cults. Okay, and again, let me just say again that I don't think that this cult would be representative of people involved in Antinu cults today. I'm not necessarily saying that at all. I'm just offering up evidence to you. Now, I can take questions for a very short period because we're going to have the hangout with the valedictorians and the VIPs very shortly. So if anybody has anything to ask or anything to comment, please let me know. Oh, yeah, Belinus, Beltane. Thank you, Joseph. Excellent information. So people have been asking about the Memphis 3. We're just dealing with a much different. I wanted to get into the whole Antinu. I know people are sort of conflating the two. I don't necessarily do so. I see that the Memphis 3 was just straight up Druidism. Somebody just got a book on Druidic sacrifice and said, let's do this. So who in the West Memphis area, right across the river from Jeff Buckley's death, right? Who might have been going to the library and reading up on Druidic sacrifice? I don't know. You tell me. Powerful, thirsty work, folks. Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you. So, it could be that, somebody said, always had a suspicion that Jeff Buckley was murdered. It could be he was being stalked. I mean, he was in Memphis for quite some time. Maybe he was being stalked for the Express event coinciding with this Osiris festival. I think that is not I'm sorry, been a very, very busy week. My mouth isn't working right. Oh, my goodness. Yes. There we go. River Phoenix. Oh, well, he didn't drown. He died of an overdose, didn't he? Have to look into that. The Antonu theory explains the type of sacrifice. Yes, I think so. Have I done a deep dive on the history of Mardi Gras? No, but we can. A lot of autogynephilic men who pretend to be women seem to be coming out of the military. Yes, more and more. Do I link this at all to the cult? Very possibly. I would link that more to like, Inanna Ishtar kind of goddess worship. But of course, goddess in quotes because it turns out those goddesses were also cross-dressers. Oh my goodness. What year was River Phoenix? I don't remember. 93 maybe? Some it was a long time ago. Oh, yeah. So I don't believe that the Memphis 3 are connected to Antonu personally, but here you go. Whole lot of love playing. Yeah, I mean, according to Keith Fody. Again, all that we know about the events leading up to Jeff Buckley's death come from one man, one person. That is our only source of information about that entire. And like I said, the band was a little taken aback by his presence, were they not? When people get up in the morning and look out the window, they just don't realize the world is not what they're seeing. Yes. Little Peep OD'd as well. Murder personally. Yeah, I did a big thing on Little Peep. And I talked to Greg about Little Peep as well. Bass players on stage, bare-chested with a smiley face drawn on him in a band called P while River Phoenix was dying outside. I did not know that. That is very interesting. I didn't know about the... Who is he? He was having over a girl or something. There's some sort of drama going on. Was it Trent Reznor? Something like that? Fody had a real depth vibe. Ramsey reminds us in a recent post, FBI Mindhunter has a West Memphis 3 poster signed by the Child Killers. Yeah. Well, we did a whole big stream on West Memphis. I guess I'll have to repost it. I think I reposted it in a comment, didn't I? Buckley frequented bars a lot to play at. He fits the bill. Does he not? Yes. The victimology, until I did this stream, it didn't even occur to me. But the victimology, the smiley face victimology is starting to make a lot more sense. Nirvana had a smiley face logo. Yes. Nirvana logo with today's date. I think you mean yesterday when Kurt was murdered 30 years ago now. Bathtub murders. I think that's a different phenomenon, Bronwyn. People like Whitney Houston and so on. Yes. So I just want to remind my VIPs and valedictorians that the link is up at the Patreon on the most recent post. So if you just want to follow that over there, we'll be going over there in just a few minutes. Oh, River Phoenix was dating Samantha Manthis. Samantha M. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We talked about Samantha Manthis on the Frasier blog too. There was a movie that, yeah. You out there, Brandon? Maybe you could weigh in on that. Buckley was definitely bisexual. I think that he was probably having a relationship with. I definitely believe he had a relationship with Chris Cornell, who also I believe had a relationship with Chester Bennington and Andrew Wood. I also believe it's very likely that Joan Wasser, and who was the other one? Was it Rebecca Moore? May not have been born in their present gender identities, let's just say. Gay men really love Buckley, had a vibe. Another reason he might have been stalked, right? Another reason he might have been stalked. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, I definitely think that Cornell, Chris Cornell, uh, Jeff Buckley, and that's really how everything just kind of broke open for me back in 2017, right? Oh my goodness. So my VIPs and valedictorians, I'm going to switch over to Zoom in just a minute or so. Just want to oh yes, Lupercalia. Buckley wades into a slackwater channel of Wolf River. Rhyme, listen, river. Yeah, there we go. A lot of like drowning river symbolism. It's just all very primal, very ancient, very primal stuff here. Yes. Thank you, Thor. Forgot all about the eclipse. Just like in 2017. Alrighty, folks. I'm gonna have to cut this short, and just thank you all for coming. Let me just type that in. Thank you very much. Seriously, thank you all very much. This was a lot of work. I've been really busy this week with this stuff. Yeah, wow. 2 big presentations in 1 week. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you don't have Zoom, you can access Zoom through your browser. You don't have to have Zoom, okay? You don't have to have Zoom. You can access it through the browser. Let me just write that in. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for coming.